the biggest threat to southeast Queensland in 50 years. 4 million people are in the firing line of Cyclone Alfred as it barrels towards Brisbane. The system is currently 325 kilometres east of the city and is set to make landfall Friday morning, bringing with it destructive winds and life-threatening flooding. Tens of thousands of homes are at risk. The region is now in virtual shutdown as people brace for what's to come. We have reporters stationed across the southeast. Will Murray begins our coverage.
Cyclone Alfred is edging closer, but it's what comes after his initial impact that's leaving businesses in low-lying areas feeling uneasy.
Today it's really about preparation. We don't necessarily want to see a repeat of what happened in 2022. It went under, like water did flow through the cafe.
This croquet club not taking any chances, quite literally removing everything but the kitchen sink.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff here which we can't move, like the new kitchen cabinetry, but we've taken all the doors off and the drawers out.
Some charities are preparing for the worst.
If something does happen, we have to be on the front lines to help people, so we need not to be worrying about our centre. We could be in for some devastation with our homeless on the streets.
Residents in flood-prone suburbs also doing what they can while they still can.
The last flood was about 1.3 metres, but we're hoping that the flood levels don't reach what it did in 2022.
The Category 2 system is set to make landfall early Friday morning, bringing with it destructive winds. The bigger risk, torrential rain that is set to linger for days.
So this could mean the event causes totals over 800 millimetres. This sort of rainfall is expected to produce life-threatening flash and riverine flooding.
Authorities are extremely concerned that flooding could be exacerbated by storm surges, where water is pushed inland by abnormally high tides. Alfred could bring a high tide more than a metre above its usual level, which could be disastrous for many in low-lying areas. Many island residents off Moreton Bay have heeded warnings to consider evacuating.
The fact that no one can get over to the island once the cyclone hits, so you're there by yourself. It's a scary time.
The most important is human life, and that's what I chose this morning.
But some have chosen to stay.
We were a bit anxious. This will be the first time I've been through a cyclone in my lifetime, and I'm 53 years old. So the unknown's there, of course, but been through floods and things before.
For those in Brisbane with nowhere safe to shelter,
we are initiating a cyclone refuge centre at the RNA showgrounds. This will be available for people who have no other options. It's not designed for the long term. It's designed to protect people's physical safety.
The governments across the board are taking this seriously, and Queenslanders, as well as those on the north coast of New South Wales, need to do so as well.
Public transport in the city will cease tonight and will be shut down till at least Friday. Schools will also close from tomorrow.
I'm pretty happy not to be coming out in this weather to be doing school pick-up or drop-off.
Keeping safe and staying dry, the main priority. Will Murray, ABC News, Brisbane.
On the Gold Coast, residents are being warned 6,000 properties could be impacted by flooding when the system makes landfall. Already today, a taste of what's to come, with record-breaking swells smashing into the shoreline. Now, the city's already experienced a tornado and flooding in the last 2 years, and so no one's taking any chances.
As the weather begins to turn, the gravity of what the Gold Coast is about to face is setting in.
A little bit anxious. Yeah, I didn't get a great sleep last night. Probably worse tonight.
I'm more worried about the winds and the trees.
In a worst-case scenario, up to 6,000 homes across the region could be impacted.
This looks like the most significant event in our city in terms of destructive winds and heavy rain that we've seen since 1954.
Tropical Cyclone Alfred is whipping up a spectacle, but curious onlookers are urged to stay away for their own safety.
The swell is enormous. We can't be more clear than when we close the beaches, the best thing to do is stay away from the beach.
Norm Wages' rental home at Eleanor backs onto Currumbin Creek. He and his wife have ready-to-go bags packed.
We're prepared for the worst, yeah.
Sand remains a precious commodity as more and more people race to shore up their homes.
I'm just trying to gain some time so the water can be absorbed by the ground mostly.
John Hart's waterfront property was badly damaged when a tornado hit the Gold Coast in 2023.
I don't think there was a house in the street that wasn't damaged by that. The roof got taken off this. This has all been repaired.
This time he's doing everything in his power to protect his home.
I think a lot of people are a little bit apprehensive this time.
This Burleigh church is offering sanctuary to dozens of homeless people.
It's really quite dangerous and even made more difficult by not having a shelter and somewhere warm and safe to sleep.
This is one of the biggest concerns, that Alfred's powerful surge could overwhelm low-lying homes. The worst-case scenario for coastal communities would be if the storm made landfall on high tide. The airport closed this afternoon. Rescue animals are being secured. For residents, it's time to hunker down.
We now need to start getting people to be safe in their homes, getting them off the road.
An agonising wait to see what Mother Nature has in store.
Fingers crossed that we all come out the other side okay and unscathed, and, we just have to ride it out as best we can.
Mackenzie Colohan, ABC News, Gold Coast.
The Sunshine Coast looks likely to avoid a direct hit from Cyclone Alfred, but that doesn't mean residents can relax. The modelling still shows more than 1,500 properties could experience some level of flooding, and 95-kilometre-an-hour winds will still pack a punch.
Police on the beat in Maroochydore, going door to door to check on those in potential flood zones.
People going past must have thought Beryl's in trouble.
Beryl Mawini went through a cyclone here 50 years ago and feels more prepared this time around.
Putting down my ornaments, laying them down, taking things inside.
Residents are digging in to help each other. CJ Roger used to be homeless. He doesn't want to see anyone else struggling.
We've got to look after your friends. I'll take a few people in if I can. But yeah, my home's not much, but I'll take what I can.
Black Mountain residents cut off in the 2022 floods fear a repeat.
We're resilient. Look, it's resilient. But the thing with the community, we've bonded together.
It's been all hands on deck on Bribie Island too.
I'm on call, so on standby, so it's a bit wet to work at the moment, so we'll come down and give the general public a hand.
We flood in normal water, so we just got to stay in and dry.
Boaties are being urged to secure their vessels.
We have two main concerns. One is the wind, obviously, blowing boats around and blowing boats off pontoons. The other is the tidal surge.
Evacuation centres have opened at Noosa and at the Nambour Showgrounds, where residents can stay along with their pets. Australia Zoo staff will keep working around the clock to protect the animals.
So our entire zoo is getting the once over. All of our keepers are onto it. They're making sure that all the homes and the habitats of our animals are safe.
These endangered loggerhead turtle hatchlings made it out to sea just in time, but 50 nests remain along the coast on ever-shrinking amounts of sand.
We know there has been significant erosion at Bribie Island, and this is causing concern for a lot of our residential areas.
Authorities are urging residents not to be complacent. Even though it now appears the Sunshine Coast is likely to avoid a direct hit, conditions are still deteriorating, and the latest modelling shows about 1,600 homes could be impacted.
It could still hit us directly, and whatever happens, we will feel its impacts.
Of course, you have to be ready.
So now it's just a matter of hanging in there, whichever way the wind blows. Jessica Ross, ABC News, Sunshine Coast.
Jenny Woodward joins me now. And Jenny, Cyclone Alfred, it's threatening to be one of the most significant weather events in our recent history.
That's right, Jess. The cyclone is going to have a severe effect of weather over several days. Hello, everyone. Now, that's going to include storm force winds, torrential rain, and a dangerous storm surge. Now, if we take a look at the track map, you can see that Alfred is about 300 kilometres offshore and is forecast to approach the coast tomorrow before making landfall, somewhere between Coolangatta and Maroochydore, potentially Friday morning and maybe later, as it's now slow moving and wobbling. The peak wind gusts near the eye of the Category 2 storm are destructive, and range from 125 to 164 kilometres an hour. Now, at this strength, the wind will cause some damage to homes and crops, also toppling trees, which can lead to power outages. Alfred's rainfall will peak from Thursday to Saturday, when heavy falls extend well down the New South Wales coast in that onshore flow to the south of the eye. The rainfall intensity will rapidly decline north of the eye, where the wind's blowing in a drier offshore direction. Now, the system may generate rain totals of up to 250 millimetres. Now, that's enough for life-threatening flash flooding, while 24-hour totals could reach 400 millimetres, sufficient for major river flooding. And finally, the wide field of gales is churning up huge waves, averaging more than 6 metres near the border, and with the maximum heights well over 12 metres offshore. Now, when we combine that with the water levels up to half a metre above the normal highest tide of the year, the powerful waves are going to lead to coastal inundation and significant beach erosion. So it is going to be a very wild time ahead, Jess.
Sure is. Jenny, thank you so much. Well, let's hear from the Premier now. Our state political reporter Jack Mackay spoke with him just a short time ago.
Premier, thanks for your time. What's your key message tonight for South East Queenslanders?
To have a plan and know that we are ready, and we want you to be ready as well. And we are taking this seriously, and we want Queenslanders to take it seriously as well. And if you do that, if you have a plan, if you do all of those things before the cyclone passes, I have every faith that they'll get through it.
When will it be too late for people to move on? When will it be too late for people to prepare for this cyclone?
My advice is, if you are in one of those storm surge areas, if you're in a place where you know it floods, the safest place is to be with friends and family out of that zone. Now, that window will close, and it is rapidly closing. But we're asking people to make sure that whatever the decision, have the plan and fulfil that plan. Now, the vast majority of Queenslanders won't be in that storm surge or a flood area, and the safest place for them is to be at home. But in order to make that the safest place, you've got to do the little things now and into the early hours of tomorrow morning to make sure that your home is as secure as it can be. So just do that sweep around the yard, make sure you've picked up everything, have a look if there's any branches overhanging, check the gutters for leaves, and then what you do inside the home is also important. So have those important documents in one place if you do need to leave. That's so important to reconnect those services later. Have bottled water and tinned food. But if you do those little things, I have every faith that the community will get through this. I really do.
It sounds like that window could close, though, about midday tomorrow, early tomorrow. Is that right?
There's no doubt that window will close early. And the best time is to think about it now. And the reason why, Jack, is there is a likelihood that this system could cross on a high tide in the middle of the night. That's the last time you want to be thinking about leaving your home with water coming in. We have done a lot of work in pre-positioning emergency services to respond to an event, but that does put you at harm's way and it puts them at harm's way as well. So do the little things, make the preparations. And the best thing to do is, if you have a look on our website, which is that disaster.qld.gov.au website, we also have all of the council's dashboards there. They have put in their storm surge maps so you can see where your property is. That's important to do, and then you can make an informed decision on that.
Premier, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, the impact of Cyclone Alfred will, of course, also be felt over the border. Parts of northern New South Wales are still rebuilding after the devastating floods of 2022. But businesses are hoping they can learn from their experiences and be better prepared this time.
This time 3 years ago, Woodburn was almost completely underwater.
There's still a lot of trauma, and if you drive around town, you'll still see that there's a lot of houses that still aren't even rebuilt.
Sandra Peters runs a bakery in the town. She and her staff will be keeping locals stocked up before evacuating at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
We're doing bulk bread, so our bakers are starting 5 hours early tonight to do bulk bread and bulk pies.
Thousands of Lismore homes and businesses were destroyed by the 2022 floods. Mayor Steve Krieg had been in office for a matter of weeks.
I threw everything that I had into trying to protect Lismore, but I was made very acutely aware that I put the city first and my family second.
This time, he's more conscious of protecting his family. They live above his restaurant, which he opened in a new Lismore location after the old site was flooded.
It was a gamble. No other way to describe it.
This concrete levee protects the Lismore CBD, but in 2022, floodwaters went nearly 4 metres above it. The SES says it's preparing for the possibility of water to go over it again this week, but it's putting measures in place to protect residents.
If our levee was to overtop this week, I just don't know how many of our businesses will be able to take that.
Organisation Resilient Lismore helps to rebuild disaster-damaged homes.
We will swing into action as soon as we can after the event. This is something that happens in our community. None of us like it, but we know how to do it.
Preparing for the worst while still recovering from it. Emma Rennie, ABC News, Lismore.